There is a moment, usually right around 2 in the afternoon, when you are sitting in your car or staring at a computer screen, and you realize you are completely empty. You are not just tired, you are hollow. The terrifying part is not the fatigue itself, but the quiet realization that you still have half a day left to pretend you are fine, to act like the man everyone expects you to be. But what if I told you that this crushing, deep bone exhaustion is not the natural cost of turning 50? What if getting your engine to run strong again came down to giving your body exactly 3 specific raw materials it has been desperately burning through for decades? A lot of men are not broken, they are just ignoring the wrong things. If I could go back in time and sit down with the 50-year-old version of myself, I would not give him a motivational speech. I would not tell him to just push harder. The 50-year-old version of me was already pushing as hard as he could, and he was quietly falling apart. I was flying out of Phoenix every week, managing a regional sales team, sleeping in different hotel beds, and living on airport food and sheer adrenaline. I looked at my body the same way I looked at a rental car. I expected it to start up every morning no matter what kind of cheap fuel I put in it, and no matter how long the warning lights had been flashing on the dashboard. I ignored the fading energy because I thought I was supposed to. I thought slowing down was just what happened when you crossed the half-century mark. First, the afternoon crashes became heavier. Then, the morning predictability completely vanished. The physical response I used to rely on as a man, the response that gave me my footing in my own house, just stopped showing up reliably. When your machinery starts failing like that, you do not just lose a physical function. You lose your confidence, you start building walls. During the hardest stretch of those years, the years that eventually brought my first marriage to an end, I did not know how to say I was struggling. I withdrew. I spent my evenings in the garage or answering useless emails, actively avoiding the bedroom because I was terrified of facing another physical failure. I was so proud that I chose distance over honesty. I went to the doctors, of course. I sat in the sterile rooms and let them look at my numbers. They told me my testosterone was a little low, but normal for my age. They told me my blood pressure was creeping up. They handed me a prescription to force the hydraulic system to work when I needed it, and they told me to try to relax. They were treating the smoke. They were not looking at the engine block. I had to figure the mechanics out on my own. I stopped taking the quick fixes that left me with a pounding head and a flushed face, and I started actually reading about the infrastructure of the male body, because I realized something fundamental. You cannot run a complex high-performance engine for 50 years, never change the oil, never replace the spark plugs, never check the fluid levels, and then act surprised when the engine refuses to turn over. The human body operates on raw materials. If you do not give the system the base materials it needs to create energy, to expand the blood vessels, and to signal the physical response, the system simply powers down to protect itself. If I went back to 50, I would ruthlessly, uncompromisingly stock my engine with 3 specific materials. The first one is the ignition switch. For years, I lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, surrounded by the brightest sun in the country, and I was entirely deficient in vitamin D3. I was always inside an office, inside a car, or inside an airplane. I thought vitamin D was just something in milk that kept your bones from snapping. What I discovered is that it is not really a vitamin at all. It is a prohormone. It is the foundational building block your body uses to manufacture testosterone. When your D3 levels crash, your body physically cannot produce the raw horsepower you need to feel like a man. The factory shuts down because the supply chain is empty. You can have all the desire in the world, but if the ignition switch does not have power, the engine will not catch. I started taking a high-quality liquid vitamin D3 every single morning. I did not take a massive random dose. I took enough to signal to my system that the drought was over. Within a month, the deep, heavy fog that used to sit on my brain in the morning started to lift. The factory was getting its supplies back. The second material is the system buffer. It is the coolant. And this is the one that almost every man over 50 is completely burning through without knowing it. It is magnesium. Think about how you live. Think about the stress of your job, the financial pressure, the relationship tension. When the male body is under stress, it dumps cortisol into the bloodstream. To process that stress, to keep the engine from literally melting down, the body burns massive amounts of magnesium. The problem is, magnesium is the exact mineral your body requires to relax the smooth muscle tissue. If your magnesium is depleted, your muscles cannot relax. Your blood vessels stay clamped shut. Your pelvic floor, the hammock of muscle that all your vital plumbing runs through, stays locked in a state of permanent tension. You are trying to get blood to flow to create a physical response, but the pipes are being strangled by a system that is running entirely too hot. I started taking a highly absorbable form of magnesium right before bed. Not the cheap stuff from the drugstore that just destroys your stomach. I found a clean magnesium glycinate. I took it every night and I let it do the quiet work of cooling the engine down. The first thing I noticed was the sleep. I actually slept through the night for the first time in years. The tension in my jaw and my lower back vanished. And because the system was finally relaxed, the blood vessels were able to expand again. The restricted flow opened up. The warmth came back to my extremities. The third material is the fuel pump. It is the conversion mechanism. You can eat the best food in the world, you can put premium fuel in the tank, but if the fuel pump is broken, the engine starves. For men our age, that pump is the B vitamin complex, specifically B12. As we get older, and especially as we accumulate stress and stomach acid issues, our ability to extract B12 from our food drops off a cliff. B12 is what your body uses to maintain the health of your nerves and to physically convert the food you eat into usable cellular energy. Without it, the signals from your brain simply do not reach your lower body fast enough. The physical response becomes delayed, weak, and unpredictable. You feel like you are walking through wet concrete. I stopped relying on massive cups of dark roast coffee to force my system awake. Coffee just borrows energy from tomorrow and leaves you in debt. I added a sublingual B complex to my morning routine. I put it under my tongue so it bypassed my tired digestive system and went straight into the bloodstream. I gave the engine the spark it was missing. It did not happen in a day. You do not undo decades of neglect in a weekend. But a few weeks into ruthlessly providing my body with these three raw materials, the ignition switch, the coolant, and the fuel pump, the machinery just started running again. I woke up one morning and the old predictability was just there. It was not forced. It was not anxious. It was just the natural, heavy, undeniable flow of blood and energy returning to a space that was finally prepared to handle it. The afternoon crashes disappeared. I was getting to the end of the day and I still had reserve power in the tank. The confidence comes back when the body starts to respond again. When I met Alyssa, my life was completely different. She is 9 years younger than me, a former interior design consultant, and she reads people instantly. She demands honesty. If I had brought the tired, defensive, insecure man I was in my early 50s into this marriage, we would have torn each other apart. But there was nothing to hide anymore, because I understood my machinery. There was a night a few months ago where we had been traveling, the flights were delayed, and we were both exhausted. In the old days, I would have panicked about my physical performance, turned my back, and pretended to be asleep. This time, I just looked at her, smiled, and told her my tank was completely empty and the engine was in the garage for the night. I did not apologize for it. I just stated the reality of the machinery. She laughed, pulled the blanket up, and we slept. The next morning, the system fired up perfectly. You do not have to live in fear of your own body when you know how to maintain it. I had this exact conversation with my son Ethan recently. He is 31, working in commercial real estate, running on empty, living on stress and caffeine. I sat him down in my kitchen, poured him a glass of water, and told him he was driving a car with no oil in the pan. I told him that right now his youth is absorbing the damage. But I warned him that the bill is going to arrive in the mail the second he hits his late 40s. If he does not start replacing the raw materials he is burning, the engine is going to seize up on him when he needs it most. You cannot outwork a mechanical failure. You have to put the right materials back into the system. Look, I am 63 years old. I do not have the raw, unthinking horsepower I had at 30, and I do not want it. What I have now is consistency. What I have is an engine that runs clean, lines that stay open, and a body that does exactly what I ask it to do because I treat it with respect. If you are sitting there right now feeling that hollow emptiness, wondering if your best days as a man are just in the rearview mirror, I need you to hear me. You are not uniquely broken. You are just running a depleted system. Stop asking an empty engine to perform miracles. Stop relying on temporary pills to force a broken system to run redline. Give your body the foundational materials it has been begging for. Give it the D3, give it the magnesium. Give it the B complex. When you restock the factory knows exactly what to do. The mechanisms that make you feel like a man, the physical responses that give you your footing in the world, they are usually still there. They are just waiting for the supplies to arrive. The flow is everything. Once you get the flow back, the rest of the man comes back with it. We are going to keep having these conversations. There is a lot more to cover about the daily choices that keep the system running smoothly on the back half of the journey. Take control of your maintenance. I will see you in the next one.